Today, we're talking to Kerry. Kerry was overweight, suffering from IBS, lower back pain, arthritis, and crippling depression. That was 45 days ago, before he discovered the carnivore diet. Just before we get started, guys, do me a massive favor and smash like and also click subscribe. It really helps the channel out and I am grateful for your support. And just a quick note, we had some internet issues during this interview, so some of the audio is not completely synced up with the video. Let's meet Kerry. Kerry, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So you've been doing the carnivore diet for about 30 days now, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, so I just did a 30-day update video, but that went out a little earlier. I just hit day 45. Today's my 45th day.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mentioned that specifically because just from the 30 days to the 45 days, it's been amazing how much additional changes and how much better I feel now, even versus the 30 days, which I thought I could never really feel better than I did at the 30-day mark. So it's amazing.
Oh, nice. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you found the carnivore diet, what got you interested in it, and then what the last 45 days have been like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing the keto diet maybe 10 years ago, and I'm about 5'10". I was about 260 pounds at that time. So I was really overweight and I had a lot of other health issues. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, heart issues, just a bunch of stuff. And I did keto very successfully about 10 years ago. I think I got down to from 260. I lost about 60 pounds down to about 200 pounds. And then I just fluctuated for years and years. I would go on keto for a while and then I'd go off of it. And then I started doing keto again pretty good about 2 years ago. And I got down to about 220 pounds on keto, but I had so many health issues. I've had irritable bowel syndrome. I've had horrible sleep issues, insomnia, depression, really bad anxiety. And one of the biggest things that led me to it was frankly, the depression. I had just really, really bad depression, like almost just not functioning level of depression. And when I noticed when I was doing keto, it would help with that a little bit. But I still had a whole bunch of other issues. Yeah. And so I've been struggling with keto for quite a while. I think one of the things for me recently that I've learned is I have friends that have started keto. I'm like, it was so much harder for me back 10 years ago to do keto because there's so many keto products now. But now in retrospect, I think a lot of those keto products that are out there now have really been hurting me. It's like you got the keto ice cream, the keto bread, the keto tortillas. And I found myself trying to avoid those on keto this last year, but I kept going back to them. And my health just really declined over the course of this last year. About 18 months ago, I started getting this pain in my toe and my foot, and it just got worse and worse. And when I say 18 months, I know it specifically because I went to so many different doctor's appointments, took so much different medication for it. And the last appointment I had, they did an MRI and said I would need to have surgery on the toe, and it was just full of arthritic fluid. My elbows were just very painful. I could hardly move my elbows. I have back pain like every single day. And so those are quite a few of the things that led me into carnivore. And one of the things I've heard about it before, but it was because of you and other YouTubers out there talking about it. I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I think one of the first channels I watched was Ferrigno Freedom, and he was an individual that had a really big success story. I don't know if you're familiar with Dante over there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so um, that kind of inspired me, and then I started watching other channels like Dr. Barry, and then your channel started popping up, and I started watching you and Dr. Anthony Chaffee, and yeah, a whole bunch of them. And I decided to just do it. The other reason I was interested in doing it was for my daughter. She's 18 years old, and she had open heart surgery when she was 13, and she's had
Wow.
a whole bunch of health problems. Thankfully, her open heart surgery went well, but she has a condition called HS, a skin condition, and it's all over her back, and it's like acne and inflammation, and it's very painful. And she's had it for years, and we've taken her to 5 different dermatologists all over the state. Every one of them's tried giving her pills, and nothing's working. And I saw Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, talk about her issues with arthritis and skin. And she was a young lady, kind of reminded me of my daughter. So I'm like, man, I think this could help my daughter. And that's one of the other reasons I decided to start doing carnivore 45 days ago. So yeah, I started it, and within days, I was noticing just unbelievable results. I tell people about it now too, and I'm like, no, I'm being serious. Like, that's what happened. The first day that I was on it, I stopped snoring, and I'd been snoring for a year, and I'd previously been diagnosed with sleep apnea, and I had a CPAP machine. And for the last 45 days, my wife will attest to this, I haven't snored one day. And prior to this, I snored every single day, horribly. I'd wake up with huge bags under my eyes, and I just wasn't getting any sleep. And then I just started noticing a lot of other things, a lot of other improvements very, very quickly, which was a surprise to me. I thought it would take a couple of weeks before I would notice anything like that.
Wow. So, a lot of issues, and what you say about keto is kind of my experience as well. You did okay with keto, but then there are so many keto products now that you've got all this temptation around you all the time, and you're going in for these packaged products, and they're unlikely to be good for you, right? They're probably full of seed oils and all sorts of other stuff, and once you start eating that and the sweetness in those things, it just leads you back to a normal way of eating very, very quickly. Um, and yeah, that was definitely a problem I've had, and why I've started and restarted low carb and keto over the years. Um, so you got down to about 220 when you were doing keto. In the last 45 days, what difference have you seen in your weight?
I'm really glad you asked that. I'm kind of excited about that actually, because in my video I did, which was a 30-day update, I just broke 200. I got down to 199, which was kind of awesome, getting into the 100s. And now it's been 45 days. That was 15 days ago. And I was just really stoked this morning. I weighed myself. I'm at 193 now. So I dropped another 6 pounds
Nice.
since the 30-day mark. And that was just huge to me, because I've yo-yoed on keto, and I've done all sorts of things too. I did a 5-day water fast. I did a 3-day water fast. I did one meal a day, counting calories for like 6 months. Mostly I've done keto though, but no matter what I was doing for the last maybe 2 years, I could never get under 195. Like I'm not even exaggerating. Like a 5-day water fast, I'm like, okay, this is gonna do it. It's like my body's like, nope, you're not going under 195, no matter what I would do. So I was really, I haven't weighed myself in a couple days too. So I kind of just jumped from checking before when I was at the 199, and when I weighed myself this morning, I was like, whoa, 193. I finally broke under the 195. So it was pretty exciting.
Nice. That's really good. And so what do you have a goal for your weight? Like, what would you like to get to ideally?
Ideally, I would like to get to 185. But initially in my 30-day video, I was saying, that's kind of an arbitrary goal. And if I get there, then maybe I'll reintroduce some foods. But I've since kind of changed my stance on that, and I don't want to reintroduce foods. I just feel so good, and every day I'm feeling better. It's like, what's the point? Let's just keep going and seeing. And if my body starts telling me like, hey, something's not right, you're not doing this, then maybe I'll do it. But 185 was kind of an arbitrary goal. But I mentioned this in my 30-day video. If I had, so I've lost, what is that now? Almost 30 pounds, 27 pounds. I don't know. If I had gained 30 pounds right now, I would still have done the carnivore diet, because all of the other things that have changed have just, it's been completely life-changing. The sleep has been the biggest one. I mentioned the snoring and that I stopped snoring, but it's so much more than that. Just I've never in my whole life waken up so relaxed. Like my legs are relaxed, my body's relaxed. Like I'm almost jumping out of bed. I've never experienced it before. I was talking to someone and I was telling them when I was younger, I got glasses for the first time. And I remember walking outside and looking at a tree and I was like, oh my goodness, I could see every little leaf. And I'd never seen that before. A tree to me was always all blurry. And I think that's kind of how I ended up in my life here, where every day I'd wake up groggy and tired. And that was kind of my new normal. I didn't know that there was anything else beyond that. It's just like, that's the normal. The tree's blurry, but yeah, it completely changed things. I don't ever want to go back to that before that. So I, I mentioned too, I've had, one of the reasons I started doing keto is I've had really bad depression and anxiety throughout my life, just crippling depression. And I've been on every medication for it and nothing worked. And the only thing that I ever noticed seemed to help me was when I first started doing keto. It seemed like that would be the only thing that would rein in my depression. And in retrospect, I kind of think it was from sleep. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I think a lot of the depression and anxiety wasn't necessarily caused by something I was eating or wasn't eating or medicine, but just that I was walking around like a zombie and I wasn't getting enough sleep and I didn't know it, and it builds up over months and years, and before you know it, you're depressed and anxious.
That makes sense. The depression's
Right.
gone, the snoring's gone. Um, the arthritis has gone or is better, or how's that going?
It's 90% better at this point, which is miraculous to me. It's been 18 months and it was so bad. I was limping and I wasn't doing anything either. It just hurt so bad. Like normally I would have maybe gone out and went golfing or something like that, or doing more yard work. I wasn't doing anything because I was limping so bad. I was actually favoring the other foot, that it was kind of changing the way I was walking. It was going on for months and months. And the only other thing that ever helped me was I had an injection in the toe at one time, and that gave me relief for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm sure it did a lot more long-term damage than it probably helped. And I kind of wish that I hadn't done that, but this was the only thing that helped. And they put me on all sorts of medication for it. And like I said, it was going to be surgery if I didn't do this. So that was one of the big changes. That too, and I've always had lower back pain and pain in my elbows and neck, but just constant, like every day. Every day at night, I'm like to my wife, "Can you just rub my back? It's just killing me again." That's been completely gone for 45 days. None of it at all. And I it's kind of a little side story, but my wife and I, we kind of went on an exciting adventure 7 months ago. We purchased our small town movie theater here in town. We have 4 girls, triplets plus one, and it's an old historic building, and we reopened it, and it's been a lot of fun. But long story short, last week I had a friend of mine who's Amish, who's a roofer. We put a new roof on the building, and it was going to be just him, but I'm like, no, I'll help you. What can I do? And the first day I worked for 11 hours, and I went up and down the ladder carrying bundles of shingles. I probably went up and down that ladder 300 or 400 times. If this was over 45 days ago, I would have lasted maybe 2 hours, right? I wouldn't even have done it because of my foot, but if my foot wasn't hurting, I wouldn't have lasted 2 hours. We did that for 11 hours, and I came home and I had so much energy still. I was lifting weights when I came home. And then the next day was the most amazing part, because I'm like, any other time in my life, I would have been destroyed the next morning. My back would have been out, my neck, my shoulders done. There's no way I can go in and do this. Nothing. There was no pain at all, no lower body pain, no lower back pain. We drove over there. We worked for 4 or 5 more hours on the roofing, and it's still nothing. It's just it's like it's unbelievable. I tell people, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think honestly, like I'm sitting there, I'm kind of shaking my head when you're saying this kind of thing. Like, yeah, or sorry, nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, I feel like anyone who's been on this kind of way of eating for any length of time, for say a month or more, it's just like all the stories resonate. All the stories are like, oh yeah, yeah, I remember that feeling. I know that. Because I think the
Right.
the energy is one of the really big things. And it's like before you would have to say to yourself, I need to get up and do some exercise, or I need to go up and go for a walk, or I need to do something to, keep my circulation going or something. But now it's like, no, I want to move. I literally want to move. I literally want to do things. I literally want to pick things up, and like myself, I'm
Hmm.
48, and for 47 years, I never felt like that. Um, so yeah, it's a massive thing, right?
Right. Yeah. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so you've noticed a lot of changes in a very short time. I mean, that's 30 to 45 days is a big sorry, it's a short time to see a big difference. Um, where does this go for you now? Is this just carnivore forever now?
I think so. I really struggled with that early on in carnivore because I'm like, there's no way I can just eat meat the rest of my life and nothing else. Um, but now I don't want to do anything else. Like I would have thought too, like early on by day 45, I'm going to be sick of eating meat and maybe something else would happen. Maybe I'd get stomach aches or something, but none of that's happened. And I feel remarkably better now than I did even 5 days ago, which it's like when I've talked to a couple people on my channel that have been commenting on my YouTube video and like that have been doing this for 5, 6 years. I'm like, does it just keep? There's no way it can keep getting better this way. Like, when does it plateau? But it hasn't even plateaued for me yet. So I don't have any intention. I've learned over the years, I don't do good with middle ground. So if I do keto, it was just like you were saying, oh, we got a keto tortilla, let's try that. Even stuff that was pretty good, like cheese. I couldn't just have like one little slice of cheese, so a couple carbs, some fat in there. That's pretty good for keto. I would just keep eating it. Like I can't stop myself. So I think this kind of diet is made for me because I can do it in the opposite direction too. If it's like it's only going to be meat, that's it. I could do just meat. But if I introduce something a little bit in there, so my plan is to just keep going long term. And I've been really amazed. I've been learning so much from YouTube channels like yours and others. How many people have been doing this for many, many years? And I mean, even just the people that have their own YouTube channels, which is not many people go out and make a YouTube channel talking about what they do. But when you get into some of the carnivore groups and subreddits and things like that, there's a lot more people on there. Many that are like, yeah, I've been doing this for like 10 years, 15 years. It's just, and they all feel amazing. It's just, so I plan to keep on doing it.
Oh,
But
nice.
one of the other things that was really life changing was I kind of mentioned this earlier. My daughter Lily, she's 18. Yeah, my daughter Lily. So about 7 days into this, I told her, I'm like, this is amazing to me. And I said to her, I'm not telling you, first, I'm not telling you to do anything. I keep telling her, you're 18. You can do whatever you want now. But I said, I'm not telling you to eat meat for 30 days, but I really think you should try this carnivore diet just as an elimination diet because something you're eating is causing your HS. And her HS is incredibly painful. It was all over her back. It's like acne on her face. And where she had her open heart surgery on her chest, she had the HS right there. And her chest wound 5 years later still was having trouble healing because it was just so inflamed. It's big inflammation is basically what it is from my perspective. She went to 5 different dermatologists and they all of them tried giving her different pills, thousands of dollars, tons of hours going back and forth. And then this poor girl that's already had open heart surgery, she later had a blood clot and a bunch of other issues, is just suffering with this thing. And not one of those dermatologists, I kind of mentioned this in my video, but I was like, shame on you, dermatologists. Not one of them mentioned her diet. Not one of them did. And so, long story short, 7 days after I started carnivore, Lily started carnivore. And within about 4 days, her back started clearing up. And within about, I think it was about 8 days, almost her entire back was cleared up. She just had a little patch of it here. It was miraculous. It was absolutely amazing. Like I said, she tried everything. And the last dermatologist that she saw, they were like, well, we tried everything. There's just one thing we can do. It's an injection and it's going to completely shut down your immune system. And we're like, this is insane. And I'm like, she's had so many health issues and blood clots and open heart surgery. We don't want to shut down her immune system. And in the back of my head, I'm like, why would this work when the other 5 things the other dermatologists tried didn't work? And so this was kind of the last ditch effort. But She went through the whole 30 days on carnivore and almost she looks like a completely different person. I was saying this, she walked out of her bedroom the other day. My wife and I looked at each other. It's like unrecognizable. She lost a whole bunch of weight, which wasn't the goal, but her face is just completely different, completely cleared up. The HS is like almost completely gone. And she feels so much better. She's sleeping better. All of the other things with it is it's just amazing.
That's awesome. That's all. So, is that her hooked now? Is she on this for the foreseeable future too?
I wish I could say she was. She's definitely not getting off of keto. She went to day 30 and she started introducing some foods back. And we got in kind of an argument about it. But again, I'm like, you're 18, you can do what you want. You could try it and then come back. But she has I'm trying to think, she's maybe 10 days past now. She's been strict keto. And she was doing keto a little bit before, but really lazy, dirty keto. And she understands what's going to happen if she goes back, but she slowly introduced a couple foods like some low carb vegetables, but she's still, I'd say she's probably 75% carnivore, mostly just meat and a little bit of carbs, but yeah. And she's still, even after reintroducing some things, thankfully she's still doing well.
Oh, nice. So, regarding eating, what is a day like for you? What's the menu like? How many times are you eating? How many pounds of beef are you eating? Are you eating eggs? How's it going?
Yep. I've seemed to fluctuate lately, and these last 10 days, it seems like it's been less and less that I have been eating. A couple days I'll just eat once a day. I'll usually have a big fat ribeye. That's kind of my favorite go-to. And then usually alternating days, I'll be a little hungrier, so I'll have maybe 5 eggs and some bacon in the morning, and then another maybe smaller steak at night. I went on a kick for a couple weeks where it was pretty much ribeyes for every single meal. And actually, just today, I'm very fortunate. I live kind of out in the country here, and our neighbors, just the timing was kind of amazing. About a week ago, my neighbors, they have about 100 acres and they're farmers and they have beef cattle and dairy cattle. They opened a farm country store and they're selling steaks and beef and pork and everything there. So I went there the other day and I just got back a couple hours ago. I went there again today. It's just amazing. It's grass-fed beef, and I drive past their house every single day, and it's just green pastures where you see all of the cows. And so they're grass-fed organic beef, and they're selling T-bones for it's $8 a pound. And it's some of the most delicious steak I've ever had. So I stocked up about a week ago and I ate all of that. And now today I stocked up much bigger. I got a lot more. I got some ribeyes, some T-bones, some porterhouses, but that's about it. And on my YouTube video, the 30-day update, that video has been going kind of crazy. And I've gotten almost 1,000 comments. And one of the most prevalent comments is, what are you eating? And then the next one is, well, there's no way I could afford that diet. And I couldn't disagree with those folks more. I understand the sentiment, but it's like, oh, you're eating steak all the time. I was eating, if I would go back to before I was even on keto and just, or look at just an average, what an average American eats, where they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're going to Starbucks in the morning. Then you got to have your little snacks and your granola bars in between the meals because you're having those crashes with your insulin. Then you're drinking soda all day and you go to the bar at night and then maybe you go out to dinner 2 or 3 times. Like, I don't do any of that. So I honestly, I was trying to crunch the numbers. I think I'm probably spending maybe half of what I was spending before, but I'm eating 10 times better than I was. And the other thing a lot of people I think don't understand in my comments anyways is you get full a lot faster when you're eating really fatty pieces of meat. Um, so where they got to eat bread and carbs and chips and they just keep eating and they never seem to get full. I just had a ribeye for dinner and I almost couldn't finish it. And I did have eggs earlier today, but fills you up a lot faster.
One of the things that people who have never tried this diet don't understand, and I understand why they don't understand because I didn't either, is how much time you waste thinking about food in between meals, and also how much time you spend preparing or going to get food, and then subsequently how much money you actually waste on all that food. Because you're not just buying the food, you're paying for the packaging, you're paying for the advertising of that food and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not really the case when you're on carnivore. You eat and then you don't think about food again. I can focus on a million other things.
So true. So true. Yeah. And I'm noticing it now for other people that aren't carnivore. Just what are we going to eat for dinner? Like that's a big thing. You got to sit there and go back and forth, and it's like this trivial thing. But what are we going to eat for dinner? Where are we going to go for dinner? What are we going to do? Yeah, you're absolutely right. So much time wasted, so much time saved with this too. And I can cook a really good ribeye now. I've cooked so many of them, but it's quick. I mean, it's just 15 minutes. I'm ready. I'm eating, and that's it. And then I've got so much more time to do other things.
You've seen big changes, health wise, weight wise, and changes with your daughter. How is the rest of your family with this? Like your wife, your other kids, and your extended family?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. My family of six, I have triplets, they're 15, and then my older daughter Lily's 18. My wife and I have been together since we were 14, since we were in middle school. My family has the most messed up diet probably of any family. Everyone is slightly different, and it's probably, if I was on carnivore a long time, I probably would have been a little bit more strict and stern on things, but I've let it go way too far. So one of my triplets, Emma, has been a vegan for 2 years, and she's really close to switching over right now. We've had some very interesting debates and, and arguments. But she's been a vegan for 2 years, and my wife has been a vegetarian for 3 years now. And she, despite some of the arguments against it, um, part of her thing is I can't wrap my brain around it, but she just doesn't like the taste and texture of meat. And I just think she hasn't really tried any good stuff yet, steak and ribeyes. But luckily, my older daughter Lily's just like me. She's, like I said, she did the carnivore, the keto, and then one of my other triplets, pretty good eating a lot of meat. In fact, one of my other triplets just decided on her own to start doing carnivore as well about 3 days ago. So we'll see how that goes. And then my middle one is kind of all over the board. So it's just a mess. It's every man for himself. It's time for dinner. I'm outside grilling my steak, and they can just do whatever they want and figure it out, because I've kind of given up at this point, and they're a little bit too old to try to turn back the clock and put my foot down on some of that. I had one of the comments that one of the other comments, I'm sure you probably get a lot of these, are how I'm being so cruel and killing animals, and lots of vegan comments. Overwhelmingly, though, the comments on my video have been very, very good and very positive, very inspiring too. But yeah, you're always going to get that. I've been doing YouTube for a long time, so I understand that. But some of those have been kind of funny. One of the arguments I got into with my daughter, and I'm not sure where I heard this. Maybe I heard it from your channel. I've watched quite a few of your videos, but one of the arguments I gave to my vegan daughter Emma was, I was like, I eat just steak and beef mostly, and it's from a cow that's right down the road, and the cow had a good life. He's grazing in the field, and that one cow is literally hundreds of meals for me. And I heard someone give me this stat, and I looked it up, and it was true. And I was like, I said to Emma, I was like, did you know that last year, per the EPA, 62 million birds died from pesticide poisoning? So you could eat your vegetables and all your variety of vegetables, and then countless other fox and deer and squirrels and moles and you name it died from pesticides. So you could have those vegetables. It's just one salad you're eating. Think of all the carnage. So I exaggerated a little bit, but I'm like, think of all of those animals that died just from one salad with all those different ingredients in it. And then they've got to ship them, truck them across the country or across the world to bring all of that here, all of that waste. And then a lot of times with a salad, you eat it, you get a bag of lettuce or some lettuce, and then you have a third of it left that goes bad, and then you toss it out. I'm like, there's no waste when I'm eating steak. And like I said, one cow could be hundreds of meals versus yours. That got her thinking a little bit. I haven't convinced her to go over yet, but she's pretty close to maybe trying eggs again. So I'm going to keep pushing her.
So, your triplets, are they at school or are you homeschooling them? How does that work?
They are at school. Yep. We did homeschool for a little while during the pandemic stuff, but yep, they're all at school now. They've got a little bit less than a month left before summer vacation. So They
Yeah.
also, all three of them, work at the movie theater we took over 7 months ago. So it's been kind of a fun family adventure.
That's awesome that you've taken over the movie theater. So what was the reasoning you decided to do that? What made you take the plunge with that?
Yeah, it was a big plunge. We've been going to this theater. It's a single screen theater, and the building has actually been there since 1859. Before Lincoln was president, they were doing plays and shows there, and it was really the meeting place in our town. And our town is a small town. There's just 1,400 people or so here. And 7 years ago, when we moved here, we were like, oh, this looks like just a single screen theater. This isn't going to be too fun. But we went there and it was a great theater, great movies, fair prices, like family friendly theater. And we really fell in love with it. And I got to know the owner and I told her, if you're ever thinking of selling, please just let me know. I never thought it would have happened. And I made the mistake of telling my daughter Alyssa that, one of the triplets. And so for like 2 years, every time we would drive by the theater, are we going to buy the theater? When are we going to get the theater? I'm like, it's never going to happen. Well, then COVID happened and they weren't able to reopen again after COVID. So the theater was shut down for, geez, over 2 years, I think. And the owner called me and we were able to work it out. And yeah, it was a huge, a huge risk, a huge life change, but it's been amazing. It's been a lot of fun too. I've been doing YouTube for 7 years now, mostly about our homestead, and we got 18 chickens. So we got farm fresh eggs, we got goats. I've done a lot of homestead related videos, but since we took over the theater, we've been doing a lot of movie theater videos, adventures with the family, behind the scenes, sold out this weekend, things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm trying to grasp and hold on to the time with my daughters because it's going by so quickly. Um, the
Mm.
only downside of the theater, which I haven't caved in 45 days, is that we got some of the best popcorn in the whole world in there, and it smells really good. And I really haven't been tempted on carnivore, but popcorn, if anything, would have broken me. It would have been popcorn. But I think I'm past that now.
That's a good point actually, when you think about the cravings and stuff. Like, is there a point that um you just switched that off? Like feeling like I want to have the popcorn or I want to have the ice cream or I want to have the whatever it was that you're used to having as a snack. Is there a point where you passed and you just went, I don't care anymore? Or
Yeah, a little bit. It was very interesting for me. I know that's another thing I've been warning people about that are leaving comments on my YouTube video because I've had quite a few people like, I'm going to start doing this right away. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, do your research and make sure you start right. You're getting the electrolytes and you're drinking a lot of water because that keto flu can hit you really hard. And when I've gone into ketosis in the past, it's usually when I'm in deep keto, those cravings kind of go away. This time I don't know what happened, but I followed the advice of folks online and I had a lot of electrolytes and just an incredible amount of water. And I never experienced the keto flu. And so I don't ever remember that switching the switch off, but I really haven't had that many cravings. Um, yeah, I even and now weeks later, just every now and then it'll just be something like the popcorn smell, like, ooh, oh, wait a minute. But or we went to a great I almost have never gone out to eat, but we went to a great steak restaurant the other day. When they brought the bread out, that smell of the bread got me for like a second, but I'm like, there's no way. Like you couldn't pay me $1 million. I wouldn't want to do it. I don't want to go back to that thing. That's one thing that kind of scares me though. Uh I guess the ability for humans to normalize things just become normal. Like I was saying earlier, where I'm not sleeping every day. Well, that becomes my new normal, and that's just the way things are. I'm really trying to like write things down and appreciate things on the carnivore diet because I don't want it to be normal. Like, hey, I feel amazing right now. Now that's just normal again. Um, I'm afraid it might happen at some point, but I'm not sure. But I'm trying to avoid that for sure.
I agree with you. And I think that's one of the, for me, and it sounds like for you as well, that was one of the problems with keto because it's so easy to slip to those keto treats or whatever. And then that just becomes the normal. Oh, well, I had one last night and I didn't put any weight on. So if I have another one, it's not going to hurt. And then it's that kind of normalization. It gets momentum and stuff like that. Um, But I do think that with carnivore, at least, you do have a lot more um, kind of self control or willpower or something. It's a lot easier to just go, no, I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. And the other thing I've noticed too is I appreciate my meals so much more, where before I was just kind of like a zombie eating them. I'll bite into a steak now and I'm like, every time, 45 days later, I sit on the table in there in the kitchen eating my steak, and I have a grin on my face. My daughter walked by, she's like, what is this weird little grin on your face? And it's like, it tastes so good. It's just like my body's like, for 42 years, it's like, you finally figured this out now? What's going on? It's just like, even like the salt too. Like they say, oh, salt to taste. I'm like, that's a real thing now. I'm noticing a little more salt here. My body's just asking. It's like, it's just what I need now. It's not eating for fun or entertainment anymore. It's just like what my body needs. The other thing too is, I don't know if you noticed this, but water too. I'm becoming a connoisseur with water. I'll drink. I'll be like, oh, that's pretty good. There's like some magnesium in there and a little bit of zinc in there. I'm like, I go a little overboard, but it's like when all you drink is water, it's like you appreciate it a lot more. I'm actually
Yeah.
tasting different flavors of it at times.
How do you feel about this? So, just as you're describing this, a thought popped into my head, and I realized the last 11 months of my life is the only time in my life that I've ever spent the whole time, 100% of the time, when I go into the kitchen, I go into the kitchen with purpose. Like prior to that, it was always going to the kitchen. Oh, what can I browse and what can I snack on at the moment? Open this cupboard, open the fridge, open this, open that. Oh, there's nothing. What can I do? That hasn't happened in 11 months.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's kind of like you're saying earlier too. So much time wasted doing that, but yeah, just speculating and, well, what am I going to do? I've
Mm.
done countless times over my life, just messing around in the kitchen trying to find something to eat. And in reality, I probably wasn't even hungry, just a insulin spike or something. I just need some food quick.
What if you've got a friend that was going to start carnivore today, they're going to give it a try. What advice would you give them to kind of stick with it?
The biggest piece of advice I've been giving people, because like I said, that YouTube video has been going crazy and I've gotten so many questions on there, is do your own research for yourself. Because there's a lot of people like, that's working great for you, I'm going to go buy a steak and eat it. And it's like, you gotta do some of the research. There's some rules you do have to follow. Lots of questions on the comments. Oh, can I put A1 steak sauce on my steak? I'm like, no, no, things like that. So one of the things would be just like, I could tell you exactly what to do, but it's so much better if you go out and do the research. And it's just amazing the resources we have now with channels like yours or Dr. Barry. I was reading, I mentioned this earlier. I was reading Dr. Barry's comments on a video he did about reversing diabetes. And if anyone watching this needs to have their day turned around and have a smile on their face, go read that. I think there was 2,000 comments on there. Almost every one of them was, you have completely changed my life. I've reversed diabetes. You've saved my life. That comment over and over and over again. It's just amazing. But there's so many resources out there to learn about this. So I would say do your research and make sure you understand everything first. Once you do that, I guess my other advice would be, make sure you're getting enough fat. I think that's one thing a lot of people mess up on. Oh, I can eat meat. I'll just go eat a little piece of chicken. And that's one thing I learned after a while, because I wasn't a big fan of the fat initially. Now I love it. Now I'm craving it and I'm looking for it. And it's like one of those things, like my body's asking for it and I can feel afterwards. It's almost like I haven't had caffeine in 3 or 4 years now. It almost feels like that when I eat a good fatty steak. I just get this energy rush afterwards. And it's like, if someone was watching my behavior, they'd probably think I just drank like a Monster Energy drink or something, but it's just the fat and the steak and all that. So I guess that would be my other advice. And electrolytes with your water, that's a big one. Make sure to get plenty of water. When the keto flu can be very horrible. And but it can be avoided. I completely avoided it. And my 18-year-old daughter, Lily, she had no keto flu symptoms. We were doing the keto drops in the water and she was chugging her water, and I was making sure she was eating good fatty meat and just tons and tons of water that first week. So yeah, Um, I guess those would be some of the pieces of advice I have. After that, in terms of sticking with it, it gets easier and easier the further you go. So if you're on day 3 or 4, it might be a little tough. You might have some symptoms, some issues, but once you start getting a little further, it gets so much easier to the point now where I've had days where I have to remind myself to eat. Like 8 o'clock at night, I haven't eaten anything yet. It gets like that. I tell people that and they don't believe me, but it gets like that. And 42 years on earth, I've never really had that before. A couple times on keto, but outside keto and carnivore, I've never had a forgotten to eat. I've always eating something before that. So
Yeah. That's very similar to my experience as well. Like you literally have to schedule in the eating. And like I went to Australia for a holiday in December, and we went with a low cost carrier, and I wasn't going to eat any of the food on board, right? Because it'd be like it's like muffins and sandwiches and stuff like that, right? But it's very easy. I just fasted for a lot longer than I would normally, and the a 24-hour fast became a 36-hour fast, and I did fine. And it's very easy. So, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the movie theater. So, where are you based in the US?
I'm in central Wisconsin, about an hour north of the capital.
Okay. And you said the population is very small, 1,400 people.
That's right. Yep.
Wow. So, and in the movie theater, what kind of movies are you showing? Are these like blockbusters, or what sort of stuff goes on there? How many cinemas do you have?
It's a single screen theater, so it's a big challenge. It's very hard. And we try to stick to family friendly movies. I own a couple of like smaller businesses. So I've been doing YouTube for 7 years, and that's one of our businesses. We have an Airbnb rental. We have a dog kennel that we built on our property where we do boarding for dogs. And the movie theater is more of a passion project. My wife and I have been doing it for 7 months. It's been very successful, but we haven't taken a penny out of the building. Our ticket prices are $5 a ticket. So it's about half the average in the US. And we want to keep it family friendly. We got big families, like family of 6 coming in, and you go to one of the other theaters, you end up paying $100, $200 by the time you get all your concessions and things like that. So it's been a very fun and different experience. But in terms of the movies we're playing, we're trying to keep it pretty family friendly, but we've had a wide variety of movies. We just played the big Super Mario Brothers movie, and it sold out. It was crazy. It was our busiest weekend in 7 months. We had a line out the door of people. So that was quite an adventure. And the triplets were working very hard behind the concession stand with mom and myself. But yeah, it's a big challenge. We try to switch it up, but with one screen, it's very hard. A lot of people don't realize we can't play 2 movies at one time. So I can't play Mario Brothers in the morning and then more of a older movie at night. If I pick one movie, it has to be that movie the entire weekend. And oftentimes for a new movie, it has to be at least 2 or sometimes 3 weekends that we show it. So very challenging, especially when a really good new movie comes out. Sometimes I can't show it because it would force us to play it for 3 or even 4 weeks. And with just one screen and 1,400 people, I can't do it. So sometimes we'll play some of those a little bit later, but it's been amazing though. A lot of the town has been really good. They're like, we'll just wait to see it. We don't care. We'll just wait to see it. So
Oh, nice. Okay, so you've talked
right.
about
Yep.
your channel, and so Kerry, how do people reach out to you if they want to get in contact or they want to see some of your videos?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel name is Homestead Howe. So just one word, Homestead Howe. And yeah, we've been around. If you go on there, you can hit the about page and my email's on there. And I answer almost all of the comments on there. And probably your audience, if they haven't seen it yet, might be interested in the 30-day video I just did. That was last week, Thursday. And it's been amazing. I've had a couple videos over the 7 years take off, but very few. So that video is at like 140,000 views right now, and I'm getting some really good comments. It's been kind of cool too, because there's been a lot of like Dr. Barry commented. I was like, wow, this is talking to you too, it's like talking to a celebrity. Like I've been watching you for a while. I've been watching Dr. Barry, Dr. Anthony Chaffee commented as well. So yeah, reaching out to me on YouTube would be a good way. We've got a bunch of videos on there. I did a keto video a while ago. I'm going to do a couple of follow-up carnivore videos because I've had so many questions in the comments, like, what do you eat in a day? Where do you get your steak? Questions like that. So I'm going to do a couple of follow-up videos. But we do have some fun videos on there too about the movie theater I was talking about. See behind the scenes at the theater. Those are pretty fun. And then I've done a lot of homesteading videos with our chickens and our goats and building greenhouses and things like that.
Oh, nice. All right, and of course I'll link to all of those in the show notes.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say that's been one of the really fun things with YouTube is I've had so many people come into the theater and they're like, we watch you on YouTube, so we came in. And I was like, a lot of times I don't get on the carnivore video, I get a ton of comments. On the homesteading videos, you don't get that many comments. I'm like, are people watching? What's going on with this? But yeah, we've had every weekend, there's probably 10 different people. They're like, oh, we watch you on YouTube. I'm like, oh, awesome. Thanks for coming in. It's kind of fun meeting people in person.
Oh, nice. Okay, so is there anything anything that we missed? Anything else that you would like to share before we sign off?
No, I think that's probably good. I was just going to ask you one question, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
You're at 11 months now. At some point, did you kind of plateau? Or, I mean, obviously you can't just keep feeling better and better every day, but was there a point where you're like, is it normal for you? I guess that's the question.
Um, so as far as weight goes, I mean, I plateaued with my weight quite early on. I was probably, I guess, 4 or 5 months in, and my weight was down to where it stayed since. And I mean, any less weight would be unhealthy for me anyway. But as far as the feelings, more awake, better sleep, better mood, all that kind of thing. I mean, it's kind of plateaued, I guess. It's stabilized. I mean, I still notice things from time to time, like, oh, that's an improvement I hadn't noticed before. Like it might be something to do with strength in the arm that in my right arm that wasn't there before or something, or um something to do with balance or something like that. I'll notice improvements like that. But yeah, basically, I've been stable for a few months. That's
Awesome.
right. That's
You're
right.
almost
So
to a year. Is that right?
yeah, so basically 3rd of June will be a
Congratulations. That's
year.
awesome.
Thank you very much. So, Kerry, it's been really nice talking with you today. I appreciate you coming on to share your experience, and I look forward to exploring your channel more and finding out more about how you're going with carnivore, but also all the other things you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.